Coming up on Nebraska Stories, the sizzling backstory behind the Flatiron Steak. A rolling nightmare haunts Nebraska's highways. Helpless terror comes to life in a letter. And racing on the winding roads of the Sandhills.
Nebraska, for as long as it's been here, has been a beef state.
Here, in the middle of the country, lies Nebraska, the beef state, the unofficial nickname that first appeared on license plates in 1956. In Nebraska, agriculture is the state's top economic driver, and beef cattle production is the largest sector within that. Nebraskans produce about 25 million head of corn-fed beef cattle a year. That means there are more than 3 times as many beef cattle as people roaming around.
We've brought in leading experts and leading companies who understand the conversion of muscle to meat, who can really hone in on how do I amplify this cut.
The University of Nebraska is known for its cutting-edge research in many areas. The results of those endeavors have found their way into our everyday lives. In the grocery aisle, a promising cut of Flatiron Steak has its origins in seeing potential product left on the cutting room floor. Researcher Chris Calkins spent 40 years at the university studying fresh meat and analyzing its quality, flavor, taste, and color.
There was a period of time in the late 90s where the value of beef cattle, the value of the meat, was declining. And that was cause for alarm. So I was part of a group who did a project called Muscle Profiling.
Funded by the Beef Checkoff, the multi-university research team worked with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association to identify new cuts of meat.
The goal was to create an encyclopedia of knowledge about all of the muscles in the shoulder and in the back leg of the animal. So the Muscle Profiling project was designed to identify those diamonds in the rough, the chance to add value and increase eating satisfaction for our customers. The ultimate outgrowth was to identify approximately 15 different cuts of meat. Chief among those was the Flatiron Steak. We sell approximately 100 million pounds of those now in the U.S. Before the project, none of them were sold as steaks.
Jordan Wicks is an assistant professor and meat extension specialist at UNL. She wasn't part of the study, but she understands the university's role in tackling issues that affect the meat industry. Part of developing the Flatiron was to figure out how to cut around a seam of connective tissue that wasn't so tender.
The front arm and the back leg, those are usually what we consider a tougher product. But there's an anomaly when we talk about the Flatiron. The Flatiron is actually the second most tender cut, and it sits back here on your shoulder. It'll be tender. It's something that you can put on a steak salad because it will bite with like the lettuce. It's a little bit more cost effective than buying a filet.
We used to think that muscles in the round and the chuck were the ones that allowed the animals to move. And so they did a great deal of work while the animal was walking. But some of those muscles in the chuck just do this, and they don't work that hard. Therefore, they're very tender.
There is a caveat to that. We want to make sure we don't overcook that one. That's very important to cook that to a medium well. Otherwise, it does start to get a little bit of a livery flavor.
When it comes to the Flatiron name, that's actually an old name that's been around for 100 years in the industry, but it fell out of use. It has a connotation of an Old West steak that is flavorful and tender.
The Flatiron was officially recognized and hit the market in 2002. In the 2 decades since, Meat researchers continue to conduct research that positively impacts not only the beef industry, but the consumer as well.
Every industry has to make money. I genuinely think a lot of people in the meat industry are here to serve our global population. We want to feed the world. That is really what we want to do.
Rolling through northern Nebraska is a 53-foot trailer packed with spine-tingling scares. This is no ordinary attraction. It's the Trailer of Terror. From the quiet town of Atkinson comes a family with a flair for fright. What began as playful scares has grown into a traveling spectacle, bringing chills to small towns across Nebraska. On this particular weekend, the Trailer of Terror rolls into Wausau, Nebraska, ready to test the nerves of all who dare enter.
The Trailer of Terror is different than any other haunted house attraction, first and foremost because it's mobile. Secondly, because it is family-owned and operated. And lastly, because we want to give back to every community that we participate in. We do that by partnering with a local nonprofit in each community.
Actually, it was my idea to start a haunted house. I've always wanted it and wanted to know what it felt like. You know, we've worked out kinks and stuff that work and figured out stuff that doesn't work.
Early experiences with our family and scaring people and scaring each other was a strong influence in building the Trailer of Terror because of the fun involved. It's something that has been tradition in our family clear back to my grandparents, my parents, and then of course we carry it on with our kids. That plays into what we built here. We decided to use a 53-foot dry van trailer because when I first had the idea to make the haunted house mobile, I asked my husband, what's the biggest thing that's legal to take down the road? And he answered with a 53-foot trailer.
She just pretty much told me she had the idea and told me what she wanted done, and so I started construction. It took a lot of work, a lot of brainstorming, because everything's not straight in here, so it just really was getting things level and straightened out.
For me, it was creativity, finding things, you know, that I thought were creepy. We had to paint the entire trailer before we put up any walls.
Right this way! Come see what we got in store tonight.
The great thing about my husband and my brother-in-law is when I put something on paper and show it to them, they have the carpentry skills to bring it to life. They made it happen.
Just really glad we're up and rolling.
We can create a startle by being creative with positioning characters, props, and activating startles. The Trailer of Terror was a recipient of the NSBAA grant. So we wanted to make sure that that grant money was spent locally. So a lot of the things that were built and used here in the trailer, we tried to buy as much locally as we could. The response from rural communities in Nebraska has been great. We started getting emails and phone calls. People were curious and wanted to be part of it. Reactions that I hear are the ones that are terrified. I don't know if that sounds a little weird, but we kind of feed off of your terror, your uncomfortableness. We get a big giggle out of the screams. What? Just every person that comes through has a different reaction, and fear is fun to us.
I love scaring people. I like to interact. Changes who I am.
The most rewarding part about bringing this haunted house to life has been the family time. Our entire family is in it, even extended family. They say that you never go to work if you're having fun, and we are having fun. We enjoy scaring people.
You can go play now.
We are definitely proud of it. Hard work has never been this fun.
Beulah Adams had no idea what the skies had in store for her at the end of Easter weekend, 1913. All she knew was that she had plenty to look forward to. This daughter of a well-to-do grain company owner was just starting her career as an Omaha elementary school teacher. Her busy weekend started at the Brandeis Theater, watching a stage production featuring nationally renowned actors John Drew and Mary Boland. Sunday meant services at her church, decorated beautifully for Easter, she observed. After that, an afternoon visit with an old friend. Around 6 o'clock, she headed home to Omaha's upscale Bemis Park neighborhood. When she got off a streetcar, it was raining. She put up her umbrella and started walking to her house. Adams continued her story a couple days later in a letter to her mother.
I heard a distant roaring, such a noise as I can hardly describe, like a large lumber wagon coming toward one on the cobblestone street and drawn by runaway horses. The noise kept getting louder and louder and coming right at me. It was very bewildering. Then, as I came opposite that large tree at the side of the path, the heavy blackness in the southwest assumed a funnel shape. The wind carried me across in front of the parking and bushes in front of Toff Hansen's place. I put my umbrella down and lay flat, face downward, just 2 or 3 feet east of the gutter. With my hand, I held my face, and my feelings were similar to those of a child who turns from an impending blow, with helpless terror, waits for what will come. The next moment or two, all I can remember is the terrible roar and one distinct recollection that I was hit by something on the leg. I was hit on the head and back too, but don't remember of it. One might think I could hear the crash of timber and falling houses all around, but the terrible roar of the storm drowned everything else. In just a minute or hardly more, the noise had ceased, and I looked up and picked myself up. All the house in sight were total wrecks.
Adams had lived through the deadliest tornado in Nebraska history. 100 people died in Ralston and Omaha on that Easter Sunday, many others injured and homeless. Nebraska's governor toured the damage the next morning, calling it like my conception of hell. Today, the house Beulah Adams lived in looks a lot like it did in 1913. So does the park where she laid on the ground, waiting in helpless terror as the tornado passed overhead. Adams died 44 years later. It's easy to imagine her thoughtfully living a full life after cheating death. Successful teacher, church leader, actor, world traveler.
All the rest in the house are in bed, and I guess I'll go too and write more later. Lovingly, Beulah.
The Sandhills is one of the prettiest places there is. I love it here. I wouldn't live anywhere else.
The Nebraska Sandhills are known for beauty and serenity, but for one summer weekend each year, they're known for speed.
Well, the Sandhills Open Road Challenge is what we call an open road race, 29 miles up to close to Highway 2, 26 miles back. Unfortunately, right now is a pretty rough road. The faster you go, the smoother it is. It's a rush, as far as I'm concerned, always has been.
Joe Chown grew up in the Sandhills. All these years later, he's still here. He combined his love of place with a dream to start an open road race in Nebraska, working to make it a reality.
In the year 2000, I bought my first Corvette and I drove the road and I thought, well, that would be really cool to do this. And I knew that there was an event in Nevada where they closed a public road to have an open road race. And so I thought, well, if they can do it in Nevada, maybe we can do it in Nebraska. And luckily, there were enough people that helped me and glommed onto the idea and supported it, and we got it done.
With 34 cars the first year, the event now sells out each year at 140 entries.
I think probably we've had at least 40 states over the years represented, and Canada. Typically, it's someone who has a car that they want to get out and be able to drive the car without worrying about being apprehended by the constabulary.
My friend saw the loop-to-loop online, and he entered it, and then his navigator backed out at the last minute. So I was at work with him. He said, I'm going to this race this weekend. I need a navigator. You seem to like doing silly things. You want to come with me? And I said, yeah, sure. I was hooked pretty much after one time on the loop-to-loop.
We had a 49 Cadillac one year. And to McLarens, to Ferraris, Lamborghinis, lots of Corvettes, Mustangs, Camaros. As long as it meets the safety qualifications, they're good to go. It is a timed event, and it is not a wheel-to-wheel race. So you select a time bracket to be in. Let's say you enter the 110-mile-an-hour class. The goal is to average closest to 110 miles an hour. So the winner is the driver that gets closest to the average.
The festivities start Thursday with a loop-to-loop race. This is a 21-mile open road course that goes from Halsey to Purdom. Friday is a mile-and-half-mile shootout, followed by a parade and car show. The weekend wraps up Saturday with the 55-mile Sand Hills Open Road Challenge. The route starts in Arnold, heads north to Dunning, and ends just outside of Arnold. There are only 4 drivers who have been a part of the race every year since it started in 2001. One is Joe, another is Lyle Eckberg.
Lyle Eckberg, what a guy. Lyle's terrific, good guy. Lyle was one of the first people to sign up for the SRC. He and his boy, Nick was, I think, 17, 18 at the time, and they have a 1965 Corvette, and it has been a father-son project, and they show up faithfully every year, and it is by far the loudest car that's ever been here. He fires that thing up, you can hear it in Dunning, I think.
It has always been the loudest car. There are a couple now that are getting that way, but this is the loudest, most obnoxious car there is.
Weeks before the challenge, the Eckbergs spend time getting this car ready. Living in Wakefield, they work together, volunteer together, live next to each other, and play together.
It's pretty good if the kid calls the old man up and wants to go do something with the car, you know. Pretty good relationship if you can do something together. We don't fish or stuff like that, but we definitely do car things together.
You know, back 22 years ago when we started doing some of this stuff, it was a lot of him teaching me, and he still thinks he's a little faster than me, and that's okay.
I am. I'm still better.
A lot of guys at the open road races, they race both legs, and they've got a navigator that helps them through the whole thing, and us switching makes it a little more complicated, but it's a lot more fun that way, I think.
For some car lovers, it's all about the looks. That's not the case for Lyle and Nick with this car.
Well, it was junk. Been spray painted on the inside, the motor didn't run, had fender tore off of it and everything, so, you know, it was junk, but the price was right, and of course I like projects, so I did what you would call a frame-off restoration and put it back together to original.
Over the years, him and I were having more fun going to races and car shows, so eventually we just started stripping off all the creature comforts and making it more into a race car, and that's all it is now. It's not very fun to go a 10-mile cruise in it anymore, but to go racing, that's where it's at now.
Well, some of my purest Corvette buddies weren't very happy with me because I took a desirable car and turned it into a race car. But Nick's comment is, leave it as a race car. I mean, it could be put to original, but that'd be ridiculous. It costs you more than the car's worth, and this is way more fun.
With the unique landscape as a backdrop, the Sandhills Open Road Challenge is one of only a few road races across the country.
The thing that really separates the Sandhills Open Road Challenge from the other events is the people in the community. When you come here, you're a hero. Probably almost half of our drivers are housed with private families in Arnold because there's only one motel. Well, actually there's two, but the rooms are very limited.
In the town of 600 people, those hotels combine for only 15 rooms total. Not only does the SORC introduce participants to the Sandhills, organizers are proud of the economic boost it provides to Arnold and surrounding communities.
The SORC has been a real boon to the area. We've exceeded well over $1 million. I'd say probably we're in the $1.5 million range now, that contributions that we've made to local organizations, fire department, schools, theater, and so on. We get a lot of scholarships, playground equipment.
SORC is one of the best things that has ever happened to Arnold. It's just a fabulous organization, and it's wonderful that they bring it to our town.
James and Carl Luby are in their second year competing at the SORC.
So this is a one-owner car. I bought it brand new in '79. Drove it as my daily car for about 10 years. And
put about 100,000 miles on it. Everybody wants a whole lot of horsepower and a whole lot of car, and 90% of it is driver. You just got to be able to get the most out of it, and we're still working on that.
Mother-daughter team Mariah and Terry Schneider enjoyed carrying on the tradition started by their late father and husband, Fred.
Well, what we are doing here today is we are going to do some racing. We've been doing it for a few years, but it's a really nice open road challenge where you're just trying to meet an average speed. So we're in the 80-mile-an-hour class, so we can still have fun and not have to worry about not making it back. So we're just going to try and hit our perfect time without any snafus.
No losing my glasses.
She did that her
no
first
dropping
year.
the stopwatch. No, not starting the stopwatch.
Second year.
No trying to shut a door while you're going down the road and going like this.
First year.
No alarms going off in the car.
Second year. We've had a really exciting couple years since we've started driving. My dad did it for 19 years and then he passed away, and so we've been doing it since then. And it's been very exciting.
Nick Eckberg and Lyle Eckberg. Yeah, they're from Wakefield, Nebraska. 22nd year, and every year they've been in that blue Corvette.
We had to be a little nicer to the car this year. Our rear end's got a couple issues, so we had to take it a little easier than we normally do.
It's going clunk, clunk, clunk. But we made it, so I know a guy that can fix it. That's me, of course.
It's always good when you can drive the car to the trailer when you're done.
Fuel pump went out, so we got off the start line into second gear, and then we kind of just lost all our power.
It just starts spitting, sputtering. She drives. It's her fault.
Yeah. So we got over onto the side of the road, and there were some expletives being shared, and then she remembered that we're supposed to wave a blue flag, so we were trying to get the blue flag out.
And then we tried to push it more off to the side. So we were the first ones out, first ones back, first ones off the road.
It was pretty disappointing because we have been out, like my dad was out here for 19 years and we've been coming out. So for 20 years, we finished every single race. So now we have that where we got a did not finish, DNF.
In the 105-mile-an-hour class, in third place, Nick Eckberg and Lyle Eckberg, with a speed of .484 seconds slow.
nothing wrong with third place.
The scenery along this road is wonderful. The only thing about it is that when you're driving, you really don't have the time to appreciate it. You need to be watching, you know, in front of you, and you can't allow yourself to be distracted.
Watch more Nebraska Stories on our website, Facebook, and YouTube. Nebraska Stories is funded in part by the Margaret and Martha Thomas Foundation and the Bill Harris and Mary Sue Hormel Harris Fund for the presentation of cultural programming.